Go. Hello everybody, I'm Dan, the editor of Wargames Illustrated magazine, and I'd like to take you on a tour of the latest issue. So we're talking February 2022, Wi410. First things first, bagged with this issue of the magazine, you're either going to get one of these or one of these. Now these are epic Napoleonic infantry frames, courtesy of Warlord Games. You're either going to get the British or you're going to get the French. What I suggest is you buy 2 copies and get both. It's such a great deal, why would you not? So thanks very much for Warlord Games for providing those. You're going to get those bagged with this issue of the magazine. Unfortunately, we can't give those to European subscribers, but everybody else, you're going to get one of these frames with the copy of the magazine. Let's put those to one side for 1 minute and talk about what's in the magazine itself. I'll just point out the subscription page. Actually, why would you not subscribe to Wargames Illustrated? Even if you're in the US, you can subscribe via Ironheart Artisans. If you're in Australia and New Zealand, you can subscribe via Khaki and Green, and you will get all the free gifts if you subscribe by one of those two. Let's skip to the first article. It's one of our regular features. It's Quickfire. Quickfire is where your fellow wargamers tell us about what projects they've been working on recently. In this issue, we've got a look at an extremely extravagant Stalingrad table, which looks marvellous, and you're going to want to see that. Then we've got constructing a tower. We've also got a look at some World War II tanks and some ancient stuff as well. So some interesting things that your fellow wargamers have been working on over recent months. Then we're into another regular, which is Observation Post. Observation Post is where we look at new and forthcoming wargames stuff. Our in-house modeller Mark takes a look at a new battering ram made of MDF. He takes that into Hobby Corner, puts it together for you and tells you how that goes. Then we report on a new set of rules, which is Wars of the Republic by Osprey Games, which is mainly based on Roman Republic, before taking in another set of rules, La Cucaracha, which is Wargames rules for engagements with small forces during the Mexican Revolution. So 2 sets of rules for you, then some miniatures we're looking at there as well, before we take another look at miniatures via Release Radar. This is Dom Saw, our regular radar operative, who looks at new stuff that's been released in the hobby, usually from smaller manufacturers, but really anything that takes his fancy and thinks you should know about as well. Before we get into Full Paper Jacket, that's a regular feature in which our bookworm Neil Smith takes in some new books that have been released and will be of interest to wargamers, he's sure, and we're sure as well. Then the first article proper is part of our Napoleonic Battles theme, and it's Going Epic. We invited Steve Wood and Andy Callan over to WIHQ, and they played their first ever game of Epic Black Powder. Now, they're Black Powder fans, they make no bones about that. They've been playing it in 28mm for a long time, but this is the first time they played it at epic scale. So we got them in a room, we gave one of them the French forces, one of them the British forces, and they had at each other. And we reported on how they found the game and how it's different from Black Powder at a larger scale. Read all about that. Next up, a show report, Historicon 2021. Roving reporter Bill Gray headed off to Historicon, which was held at King of Prussia last year. And he talks about the event, how different it was to normal, because everything was in 2021, and shows us some of the best games from the show. Bill's back with the next article as well, actually. It's part of our Napoleonic Battles theme. He looks at refighting Napoleon's big battles, with particular focus on umpires and umpiring big battle games and the trials and tribulations therein. Next up, I'm not going to show you the next article, it's the Wargames Illustrated Awards 2021, in which we interview the award winners from that were presented with the awards from last year that were all voted for by WI readers. Get the magazine, find out who won what. The next article I will show you, it's this one, and it's Painting Your Free Epic Infantry. So Jamie Getliff of Warlord Games tells us how he painted up these, with instructions on how you can do it yourself. Both the British and French are covered in that article. Very simple ways of getting your figures on the tabletop as soon as possible. Another modelling article next up is Saving Private Ryan in a comic book style. We hooked up with competition-winning painter Sebastian Clement, and he told us about how he'd been converting and painting some bolt-action American figures to look like they were straight out of Saving Private Ryan, but in a comic book style. So a completely different style of painting, not photorealistic, cartoon realistic, but very interesting, very different. Shows what different things you can do with 28mm figures. Next up, Plus C'est Charge, which is an article as part of our Napoleonic Battles theme by rules writer Keith Flint, and he discusses the changes in tactics from the 7 Years' War period to the Napoleonic period and how they should be reflected on the Wargames table. Next, we're back to World War II here with A Tiger on the Hunt. It's a solo scenario for bolt action written by G. Walsh, and it's perennial wargaming favourite Whitman. Whitman's Wild Ride, how to do that as a solo game for bolt action. Right, what we've got up next, we've got basing your Napoleonic infantry. So as well as painting them, you're going to want to know how to base them. We've not included the bases this time, Ryan. We did it with the heavy infantry. It was ridiculously expensive. So you can buy your own bases or you can make your own bases. Mark shows you how easy that is, just making the bases out of plasticard. Then we've got the Silver Bayonet Society Part 4. I hope you've been following our Silver Bayonet Society campaign based on the Osprey rules. Now, it's been a bit tricky gaming during sort of semi-lockdown in the UK. So rather than focusing on tabletop activity, we've moved over to the workbench in this issue. And Callum, one of our painters, has painted a new Scarecrow figure. He tells you how he did that. Mark, another one of our painters, has taken some Dungeons and Lasers fantasy customization bits and made some clue markers. Clue markers very important in Silver Bayonet. He talks about how he made them, put them together so we can use those in our games. So Silver Bayonet hobby in this issue of the magazine. Then we're off to Mexico with the Ming Chinese. Zheng He in Mexico. This article here is sort of expanding on the historical happenings of Zheng He when he took his treasure fleet towards the Mediterranean, across the into the Red Sea and Indian Ocean. But we're taking him even further into South America, or into Central America at least, into Mexico, and we're pitting his forces against the Aztecs. And to do that, we're using Saga. So we've got some rules for using Saga, how you might fight with both the Ming Chinese and the Aztecs in Saga. Right, next up we have Why I Love Dixon Miniatures, American Civil War range specifically. So our old friend David Bickley has written an article in our Why I Love series about why he loves Dixon Miniatures and why you should too. They're an acquired taste, he admits that, David admits that, but he loves them and he talks about why he likes them so much. Is this the last article up next? I think it is. So our next article and last article is Playing the New Zealand Wars. So we've got two New Zealanders, Roller Hermans and Mark Piper. They use the Musket and Tomahawks rules for playing New Zealand Wars in New Zealand. You'll be surprised to learn. So they talk about how you can convert Musket and Tomahawks and provide all the stats for Musket and Tomahawks, but in New Zealand. So that's great stuff from those two guys, and that is about that. There you go. So this is the February 2022 issue of Wargames Illustrated, and it comes with either that free frame, the red British or the blue French. Don't miss it. Thank you very much. This video has been brought to you by WI Prime, Wargames Illustrated magazine's online members club. View more videos or find out more about WI Prime by following these links.